all the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
We have the greatest military, the strongest military, stronger than any. Nobody's even close. We have the best weapons in the world, but we don't want to use them. If you threaten America or our partners, however, then you'll be faced with overwhelming strength and devastating force. We have things that you don't even know about, you don't hear about, and if you did, you say, wow.
In 1969, there was a Minnesota court case involving a man named Jerome Daley, who was challenging the foreclosure of his home by the bank which provided the loan to purchase it. His argument was that the mortgage contract required both parties, being he and the bank, each put up a legitimate form of property for the exchange. In legal language, this is called consideration. Mr. Daley explained that the money was, in fact, not the property of the bank, for it was created out of nothing as soon as the loan agreement was signed. Remember what modern money mechanics stated about loans? What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for credits. Reserves are unchanged by the loan transactions, but deposit credits constitute new additions to the total deposits of the banking system. In other words, the money doesn't come out of their existing assets. The bank is simply inventing it, putting up nothing of its own, except for a theoretical liability on paper. As the court case progressed, the bank's president, Mr. Morgan, took the stand, and in the judge's personal memorandum, he recalled that the plaintiff, bank's president, admitted that, in combination with the Federal Reserve Bank, did create the money and credit upon its books by bookkeeping entry. The money and credit first came into existence when they created it. Mr. Morgan admitted that no United States law or statute existed which gave him the right to do this. A lawful consideration must exist and be tendered to support the note. The jury found that there was no lawful consideration, and I agree. He also poetically added, only God can create something of value out of nothing. And upon this revelation, the court rejected the bank's claim for foreclosure, and Daley kept his home. The implications of this court decision are immense. For every time you borrow money from a bank, whether it is a mortgage loan or a credit card charge, the money given to you is not only counterfeit, it is an illegitimate form of consideration, and hence voids the contract to repay, for the bank never had the money as property to begin with. Unfortunately, such legal realizations are suppressed and ignored, and the game of perpetual wealth transfer and perpetual debt continues. And this brings us to the ultimate question: why?
There is no law, and to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen working day in and day out to pay an income tax.
But We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. And to me, $50,000 is a lot of money. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000. And, based on the research that I did throughout the year 2000 and that I'm still doing, I have not found that law. I've asked Congress, we've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
There is no law that requires the average American worker in the private sector to pay a direct, unapportioned tax on their labor and compensation for services. There is no law.
I really expected that, of course, there's a law that you can point to in the law book, the code, that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. Maybe I don't know what it is right then as he was speaking to me, but sure. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable. at least not me and most people I know. And I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. And I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. And the answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
You can look through the statutes and look for the law that requires you to pay. And when you do that, you can't identify a law that requires the average person in America who earns a wage and works in private business to pay an income tax.
American citizens, along with the foundation, have been asking the IRS to specifically provide them with the underlying legal foundation upon which they administer and enforce the personal income tax laws in our country.
At the national level, when people would attempt to contact somebody of a much higher authority, say the commissioner, same kind of thing. They would get answers that were in effect non-answers.
You have to understand that an agency which will unlawfully impose a tax that doesn't exist is not going to care. If we, the people, don't know what our rights are, they're not going to tell us.
If Americans just learned that the IRS was actually knowingly deceiving them, that would be enough for them to rise up and put a stop to it.
100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt. All individual income tax revenues are gone before 1 nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. People have been told, that you need this income tax system to fund government, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, my question is, well, if that's true, how did we fund government from 1776 to 1913?
The main purpose of the income tax is not to raise revenue, but to redistribute wealth and to control society.
A lot of people might say, well, gee, if there wasn't an income tax, what would happen to education? They don't understand that education is paid for the most part, out of state and local taxes, your property tax. People might say, well, how are we going to build and maintain our highways? If there's no money coming into the government, we need our highways. There is a tax on every gallon of gasoline that people buy. Proceeds from the income tax do not pay for highway construction.
I believe that in both spirit and substance, our tax system has come to be un-American. Death and taxes may be inevitable, but unjust taxes are not.
This small booklet includes the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. This is a document that every citizen should read. It's a document which freed an entire nation. This is the Internal Revenue Code, and this document and the unlawful application of this document by the Internal Revenue Service has enslaved the nation that this document attempted to free.
And good afternoon, America. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and welcome to Steel News. It's 1 o'clock, well, a little bit after anyway, and it's Eastern, and we're ready to get the day started. Got a great show for you today because we're going to be talking about and exposing how tyranny actually works in modern America. It doesn't come from, just at you, basically from just one direction. I think if anything we've learned from General Flynn is that fifth generation warfare is coming at us from multiple directions. Sometimes it comes with handcuffs, as some J6ers know very well. They get prison cells. We've also got government agencies that actually believe they own your children. You know, the work I'm doing around CPS with the American Made Foundation, we're really banging the drum on that. And we are writing legislation for multiple states right now at the state level to really defund CPS by raising the bar and the threshold where it makes it much more difficult for agencies to take your children. But sometimes it also comes with slogans, you know, those guilt narratives, those cultural lies, all designed to turn Americans against one another, race against race, your neighbor against neighbor, until the country forgets what we're even are, who we really are, and what we're supposed to be about. In our first segment, we're going to be talking with a gentleman that's lived the hard edge of that system. As a January 6th political prisoner, as a father whose daughter was taken by the state while he was behind bars, and as a patriot who refused to let government corruption destroy his family or his future. But the system doesn't actually survive on force alone. It survives on storytelling. It survives on the lie that America is irredeemable, that Western civilization is evil, and that families are obsolete, and that everything must be filtered through race. That's where our second segment comes in, because when lies lose their moral authority, they don't collapse from debate. They actually collapse from exposure and the mockery. And that is exactly what our second segment guest does better than almost anyone in America. Joining me now is my first guest, Tom Hammer. Tom's a husband, a father, a Christian, an entrepreneur, and an America First patriot. He survived January 6th, spending 26 and a half months in a federal prison for peacefully protesting the 2020 election, which turned into the January 6th Fedsurrection. And while incarcerated, the state of Tennessee seized his daughter, placing her into custody while her mother was jailed without due process. Why are we always hearing about without due process? Does this document right here mean nothing to anybody anymore? I'm going to keep waving this every single day on camera until we finally get some due process. But despite receiving that presidential pardon, Tom and his family remain under attack by CPS and DHS. But out of that corruption, Tom has blossomed. He's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. He's now actually helping build Patriot Homes of Colorado. This is an affordable housing vision he calls America's Phoenix. Tom, I want to bring you on right now. It's great to have you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I know you were having a little bit of difficulty getting your camera and your audio sorted. I'm glad you dropped back, punted, and jumped on your cell phone. Sometimes that's the only way to get it done. Gut it out. Hey, brother, good to see you.
Thanks, Ann. It is wonderful to be here with you. And yeah, again, I want to highlight the construction skills and not the technology skills.
Yeah, no worries. Listen, technology is not everybody's strong suit, but listen, for those men that can grab a hammer and nails, God bless you. I can't do that stuff.
And I'll tell you what, because of my background, that's why America is so dear to me. You know, I don't want to cut you off. I just want to jump in. You know, January 6th, you were talking about January 6th. What does it mean now? I think is a really good question to America. You can't, people want to forget about it. I even caught myself saying something similar to that the other day, but I stopped myself and I said, you know, it is now time for us to be able to deliver the message from that day. And I think that things have finally settled down and we've cleared enough of the progressiveness out of the way that we can actually reach out to people so that they can actually get a sense of we're just like them. We just happened to be there that day because we made a decision based on our feelings and beliefs, and we followed through with it. I'm no better and I'm no less than anybody else. I went ahead and was able to follow through with the decision. And there's so many people that I've talked to that were like, I was going to be there that day. And I tell them all the time, it's a blessing that you weren't, because you're right where you're supposed to be right now.
Oh no, don't kid yourself. I was there. I saw everything that went down that day. I saw on the east side, because I only was on the east side of the Capitol, the peaceful protesters, but I also saw the Capitol Police holding open the doors to the rotunda. So I know exactly what went on that day. And I saw people walk up, ask questions, and then walk in with the Capitol Police. Like, you know, they weren't there to stop anything. They were there to make sure that people went inside the Capitol that day.
No, so I got shot with the taser and I finally saw the video. Thank you, Tommy Tatum, for always standing up and putting it out there. I finally saw one of the videos where the officer shoots the black guy next to me and he falls to the ground. But because of the clothing I'm wearing, it doesn't penetrate. I saw stuff that so my father was law enforcement. He died while I was serving this sentence. So I'm pissed at the government for that.
Sure.
I'm really pissed about that. I couldn't go see my father before he passed. But
my heart goes out to you. I don't even know what that's like.
The one thing I can say is that before he passed, he did tell me he was proud of me for standing up for what I believe in.
Good.
And I want every single person that sees this to know that they stand for something in this great country. And as long as you are faith-based and you have a Christian outlook on life, this is a country that you will be successful in. Now, if you come here and you want to be a jack-off, like what we've seen through the 4 years of that one administration, I refuse to pronounce his name, but that is how we end up in the situation we are now. So we go from January 6th, right, where we were all called, these millions of people were called terrorists, insurrectionists. We were the scum of the earth. And the whole time they're letting all the scum in. But they want us to be labeled that so that they can make these people the better part of society. We need them. We want them. We're going to care for them. And all they're doing is screwing up America.
That's right.
They don't have Christian values. Half of them don't want to be here. They're just here because they got paid to come here. And so that's the first thing in destroying this country. We stood up. You stood up with millions of other people that day. And we said, we're done with this. And look at us today. We're finally getting some traction. It's a little bit.
I have a question when it comes to standing up, because we just now saw, and President Trump didn't even mention this last night, which I thought was interesting, but Dan Bongino has resigned and he's going home, presumably to, obviously his family. He said on Fox News that he missed his wife and it's been really hard on their marriage and whatnot, or hard on his wife, I think. I don't want to contextualize and suggest anything at all, that he's going home. Do you think he's quitting? Is he quitting on the government? Is he quitting on trying to fix stuff? Because he, had a brilliant podcast for many years. I know he made a lot of money and I don't begrudge that. I'm glad he was able to be so successful. But, do you think he's going back because he just couldn't beat the system, or is he just feeling like the system was working against him? What do you think's going on there to get him to quit? Because President Trump's not quitting. He's still there. So why would Dan Bongino quit?
So the game of chess is a very interesting game. And I made a post recently how Trump, he did the pardon for Tina. And there's a piece in chess called the rook. It's a really amazing piece because it allows you to jump over something and reposition to the left or the right of your opponent. And you can be in a defensive or an offensive manner. And so I thought it was really interesting that he had done that. So with that being said, is this just a piece on the board that was put in place for reasons that maybe we don't quite understand and haven't come to the surface? And this is just part of the board. This could be part of the board in order to bring, because think of how many millions of people may not have turned and looked at the administration had Dan Bongino not been a part of it. Maybe this was a play to bring more people up and in, and now it's time for him to exit. I don't know. Chess is a very unique instrument to use when you're thinking about things like this. And you mentioned 5D. If you're playing on a level like that, we have no idea the things that they're trying to bring together, whether it's all of us, policy related, reducing regulations, going to crypto, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is this could be a move on the board.
Okay.
And it's meant to look like this.
All right. So let's talk about, what your new passion is, because, you received a presidential pardon. Quickly, did it end the persecution when you got the pardon, or did it just expose how lawless these agencies truly are?
The pardon's a piece of paper, and it's really cool to have. It didn't change anything the moment I got it, and it hasn't changed anything up to today, other than the fact that I can now stand firm on the fact that I was pardoned for January 6th.
All right. So let's talk about, how you channeled all of this trauma between January 6th, CPS taking your child. We're not going to go into that right now because I want to focus on Patriot Homes. We've talked about that in the past. What does America's Phoenix represent in Patriot Homes? What would you tell families currently, facing this stuff, that Patriot Homes is going to be sort of a safe harbor for some families that have lost everything?
So the beautiful thing about Patriot Homes is it's an affordable solution to a crisis that nobody really wants to have a conversation about fixing. They just want to keep exacerbating the problem. So it's an affordable way to build a log type structure that you can literally do yourself. It's a Lincoln log type application. So a lot of people that are in my age group that are Gen Xers, we all remember Lincoln logs, and we had a good time. And I'm sure if you were like me who loved to build things, you always wondered, is there another way? Is there a better way? Well, I truly believe that I've found that. And I have to say that I found out about this at a home show in March of this year. So I thought this would be a great way to give the government a good shot as to this is what an American's willing to do and how many people want to jump on board with me. We could get homes, we could get cabins, we could get sheds, saunas, garages, workshops. If you want to do a snow cone cut out there in Florida on the side of the road, this is a great opportunity. It is low cost. It could be delivered directly to you. It could be built in as little as a couple hours or a few days. All the homes and cabins meet building codes across the United States. So if you're looking to do something and you want to get inspired, let's beat the government at their own game. Let's provide people with affordable housing that they can own and build and call their own. True freedom, true liberty, justice equaled out on the playing field by Patriot Homes against all the big home builders. But I'm not going against the home builders. I want people to understand they can live outside of the grid. We have packages, we have insight. I have a data research young man who is an eco-culture master. He is all about eco-villages. So we are really gung-ho. We've sold our first cabin. I gave you a picture of the customers, Amy and Bob. They're actually my neighbors, and well, not direct neighbors, but it's really exciting. So if you want to support anything American, Patriot Homes is one way you can do that. Also, I encourage you all to get in, follow Ann Vandersteel, and stay connected, because if you want to know what's going on today, tomorrow, this is the lady to stay in contact with. Follow her, get involved.
So this is cool. I'm looking at your website right now, sauna installs. So you can actually get saunas installed in these Patriot Homes. Do you all do that? And what are the off-grid features you bring?
We have a business model that allows 6 different ways that we can work together. We can drop the kit, and it's all yours to do whatever you want with all the directions and labeling. We have a couple different things, which is dropping the kit, and we also send a container packed with the things that you need for cabinetry, tub, toilet, sinks, faucets, so on and so forth, if you don't want to buy in your own area or you're in a remote area where it has to be shipped anyways, all the way up to a hybrid model where we'll work directly with you and your GC to get the project done from start to finish. So we offer a lot of different ways to get this done. It's really, really easy. And if you're somebody that's interested, start out with a small shed, make it a little art studio for your kids. Maybe that'll be the first step to your new development for a log type cabin resort. I don't know.
All right. So Tom, for the best place for people to find your home, go to patriothomescolorado.com, patriothomescolorado.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a patriot, somebody who went to the Capitol, has stood for our Constitution, who has weathered the political maelstrom of corruption and lack of due process in the entire J6 debacle, as we'll call it, or the Fedsurrection more aptly is explained. He's weathered CPS. I mean, when you think about areas of interest that I've covered, January 6th and Child Protective Services are probably the top 2 besides our border. And again, all of these have been heavily impacted by unelected bureaucrats running these corruptocrat, criminal, racketeering influence criminal organizations known as federal agencies, and none of them are even part of our Constitution. You can't find any of those things in this little pamphlet right here, right? This is nothing compared to the IRS Title 26 manual they're going to shove down your throat every April 15th. So, folks, if you're interested in getting some freedom, getting off grid, and doing something for yourself, I'd encourage you to check out patriothomescolorado.com. Tom Hammer, you are extraordinary. You've been punched in the gut by the federal government a few times, and you get up and you keep going. That is the true spirit and the true essence of what it means to be American. God bless you.
Thank you, Ann. I love you. God bless America.
No worries. Tom, I promise, I mean this when I say it. Thank you so much for your courage and for refusing to never let tyranny define who you are or your family is. So again, I encourage everybody, go to patriothomescolorado.com and check it out. If you're looking for a home and you find that it's just way too expensive and out of line with what's being offered by the builders who are in bed with the county commissions in a lot of cases, like they are here where I live in South Florida, this is an option for you. Appreciate you, Tom.
Thank you, Ann.
All
Love
right.
you. Bye-bye.
Love you. Great guy. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got a pretty interesting guest. He's been on here before. We're going to shift from government tyranny to cultural warfare and how narratives are manufactured, that they're sold, and they're enforced. So stay with us. We'll be right back from this word from our incredible sponsor, who, by the way, I'm still very much in love with my superfoods. I hope you are too. Hi, I'm Ann Vandersteel. I want to talk to you a little bit about your health. Part of my daily routine is to get up in the morning and get a little exercise on. If I have time for a mile or 7, doesn't matter. I get out the door every single day. It's important to get my body moving and get that oxygen flowing through my brains. What is also equally important is what I put in my body after I exercise. I rely on vandersteelhealth.com, where I have a delicious selection of superfoods and other supplements. But first and foremost for me are my superfoods. I have a delicious shake every single day. It is organic, all made in the United States of America, non-GMO, never processed before, dehydrated superfoods. And when they reconstitute with water, milk, or whatever juice you like, it makes a delicious, healthy, plant-based protein supplement. And I say supplement because, frankly, I use this as a meal replacement. This is what's helped me lose the last 20 pounds of COVID. I'm back down to my fighting college weight, fitting in my college clothes, and feeling better than ever. So go to vandersteelhealth.com and get your delicious superfoods. Get on the transformation program with us. It's a 30-day kickoff, and it will get your day starting out great. And watch the weight just fall off. Watch the energy increase, the brain fog lift, and of course the ancillary benefits in your hair, skin, and nails. All these things, you are what you eat. Remember that. Go to vandersteelhealth.com. And welcome back to Steel News. My next guest understands something the left desperately hopes you'll never figure out. Cultural control only works if you take it seriously. AJ Rice is known as America's publicist, the undisputed greatest of all time, the GOAT of conservative public relations. He has spent decades inside media, politics, and publishing, watching firsthand how narratives are manufactured, weaponized, and enforced. As the president and CEO of Publicist PR, editor-in-chief of the Publicist National Post, and author of 2 #1 Amazon bestsellers, AJ doesn't just critique the culture, he dissects it. And in his new book, The White Privilege Album, AJ takes apart the racial grievance industry piece by piece. It is a massive industrial complex, the racial grievance industrial complex. This is right. He's exposing how the elites profit from division, how the least talented people in society use victimhood. You all know those professional victims, and they love to use their victimhood as currency, and how Americans are deliberately kept fighting over differences instead of uniting over what we share, our own civilization, family, humor, and freedom. This is not what we call academic theory, folks. This is how they do it. This is a field manual on how race baiting works, why cancel culture survives on fear, and why mockery paired with these facts is the fastest way to break that spell. AJ, you are the man. You are joining me now. It is great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. How have you been? It's been a hot minute since I've last laid eyes upon you.
Yes. Well, look, beauty is pain. So, I've been sleeping in my Dr. Fauci chamber over here, getting into, like one of those dogs he was trying to put down. But, I tell people all the time, I'm broadcasting live from the swamp here. I'm the subterranean homesick alien down here in the sewers, which is actually cleaner than the swamp. And, I saw a story about 6 months ago about these dogs that were living inside of Chernobyl, the Chernobyl dogs. And these dogs have basically become immune to being killed, to being, they become superpowered dogs, the dogs of Chernobyl. So they're like radiation proof at this point. So that's what I've become. I'm like one of the dogs of Chernobyl, right? Well, I get a little bit of swamp water splashed in my mouthwash from time to time, but I usually am immune to all the things that whatever party, Republican, Democrat, and anyone in between tries to throw at me. So look, it's great to be back. You are right. One thing we always forget, because we got a lot to say. You got a lot to say. All of our friends do. And we love being fire-breathing dragons, bringing the drama and the facts, doing investigations, and usually coming out on the right side of history. One thing everyone always forgets is something that the Greeks taught us that a lot of us pretend isn't real, and that is that laughter is actually supposed to be part of democracy, right? The idea that you can punch upward and not get drug into the Colosseum or beheaded or fed to the lions or, dare I say, deplatformed, demonetized, shadow banned, thrown in the gulag. That's what makes our civilization different versus other civilizations. And as you know, not all civilizations are created equal. So we've inherited this tradition from the Greeks, from the Romans, and obviously Judeo-Christianity, all four of these things in a blender. And that's what makes Western culture and Western civilization different. That's why we produce Mozart, we produce Rush Limbaugh, we produce Shakespeare, we produce Ben Franklin, and Zimbabwe doesn't, right? And
Right.
Somalia doesn't. And Minnesota doesn't apparently either.
So let me ask you this, AJ. Sorry, I'm trying to pull something up on a screen here. I apologize. I thought I had all of your images saved, but they are in the wrong format, so my computer won't pull them up. I'm reformatting them as you're talking here. But you address a lot of this hypocrisy in this book, White Privilege, and I'm showing it because I want people to see that cover. I love this. And I actually loved it because I just in case people didn't see this, I used it as our cover graphic because it's a burden to have this white privilege, apparently. And we are treated like, the gum underneath the criminal's shoe. And we're anything but the gum under the criminal's shoe. But there's a couple of chapters in here I want to talk because, first of all, if you've never read any of AJ's books, AJ, the way he writes, you don't have to actually read this book cover to cover. While it is a history lesson and he does it so artfully with humor because laughter is part of democracy, is part of free speech, and we should be able to laugh at the criminals that are still raping and pillaging our lives. But we still should have that accountability as we're laughing at them while they get accountability. First, we can laugh at the problem they created because we want to laugh because we don't want to be miserable. But then we're going to laugh at them when they get, strung up by their toenails. In this book, you break down, and as I said, you don't have to read this cover to cover. I like reading. This is almost like those books that you can keep on a coffee table and just pick up and read a chapter, because not only do you get a life lesson in history, but you get a belly laugh. And I want to talk about this one on page 141. You talk about white crackhead privilege revisited. I didn't start reading it before I knew what you
what you were going to pull. Hold on. Let me get, where's Richard Pryor at? I'm going to go free base. Well, here's the thing. That piece is actually a sequel to a piece that I wrote in The Walking Dead. Which they're both about Hunter Biden.
Thank you.
Right? And Ann didn't say this, but one of the reasons you can jump around in a lot of my books, and the White Privilege album is unique in the sense that it's 12 chapters, and each chapter is a month of the year.
A month of the year, and that
so you can jump to my thunder. Like if you want to do Christmas and Kwanzaa, because I know Ann and I celebrate Kwanzaa. If you want to, you jump right to chapter 12, which is December. So, I'll let you get back to the crackhead privilege there. I'm a big fan of the old crackhead.
Well, let's talk about accountability. Hunter is roaming. Last I heard, he was in South Africa spending, taxpayer money. I don't know where the crackhead is now, but you put in this chapter here, how much blow could Abe Lincoln smuggle into the White House, inspire inside that stovepipe hat of his? Of course, we will never know because it's a ridiculous question. Maybe Hunter Biden could borrow a line, so to speak, from notorious 80s era Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry. Who doesn't remember or forget? Who can forget the Marion Barry?
Our favorite crackhead mayor. That's right.
So you go, when caught on video buying crack cocaine, his dishonor insisted that he didn't actually smoke it. No, he just liked the way it smelled. Crack is the new potpourri, you see. I mean, this is what you... So let's talk.
That's right. And if you're looking for some last minute Christmas gifts, head on over to Yankee Candle Company or Bath and Body Works in your local mall, where they have a new scent that they put on the shelf. It's called White Crackhead Privilege, brought to you by Hunter Biden. You can just light the candle, get the effervescence of crack throughout your home, a little baking soda, a little water, a little Palico. Not that I know how to make it or anything. I mean, I have seen Scarface once or twice, but I will tell you, that's the scent of the season. So if you're looking for a stocking stuffer and you want to have a White Privilege album Christmas, go get yourself a crackhead candle.
Go get yourself a crackhead candle. So AJ, in all seriousness, why don't we have any accountability with Hunter Biden? I mean, you're sitting in the swamp. You talk to these people. Your client list reads like, who sat down and watched the State of the Union in addition to people on mainstream media. I mean, go ahead. Remind everybody what you did for Laura Ingraham. For how many years did you work for her?
No, I was Ingram's executive producer on radio, not at TV, on radio from 2005 to like 2010. And then Monica Kelly for a couple of years. And then John Solomon for a couple of years. And then I launched Glenn Beck's The Blaze Radio Network for a couple of years, which was Buck Sexton, Chris Salcedo, and Jay Severin. There you go. There's some of my gang, and one of which is one of us no longer with us down there in the right-hand corner there, Charlie Kirk. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm at the center of the MAGA cinematic universe here. I will tell you that there is, regardless of whether you win or not, the backslapping, protect your own, community. It's alive and well. It is, and it's almost like, are we shocked? Like, at what point does our outrage just run out of gas? I mean, Trump's only going to be able to do so much. I mean, obviously, another client of mine, not in that photo, former client, has had enough, and that would be Dan Bongino. He's leaving. Coming to a podcast near you. He's probably had enough of the red tape and the BS and I try to remind. Is he
quitting on We the People, AJ, or is he just said it's so bad in DC you can't fix it, so I'm going to go back to the outside and try and gin up the crowd to take back the government? Because frankly, that's where we are. I think we're at that alter abolish moment myself.
I think I mean, I'm not sure, and this goes for all of them. And look, you got to understand Trump understands that if you're going to be a disruptor yourself, or at least try to be, you need a team of disruptors. And I think he upgraded from Mike Pence with the fly on his head. The man who can't be alone in rooms with women without the door open, right? Whatever that means. Okay,
whatever that means. Is he admitting something, or is he
Dan with the door closed and opened? And as much as I might have dreamed of this years ago, nothing happened. Right? My point is, he basically cast a movie. Trump. He cast a movie. You can't just be a disruptor. He and look, and I'm sure this show is not a fan of all of these people. I mean, I know what your positions are on things, but you wouldn't have gotten this cast of characters had they not stolen the 2020 election, and we would have just rolled Jared and Ivankaville right into the next administration there. So, here we are. We've got, people that some of which have served in government, some of which haven't. I mean, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a disruptor, but as I've told everyone, the problem here in D.C., and I know because I have been low man on the totem pole, and I'm now Thanos, and that is that, the middle management here, okay, are the real problem. It's the lifers, right? The middle management. the fancy kids that went to the fancy kindergarten all the way up through fancy law school, look, you go to the White House, just look at that Eisenhower building. Most of the people working in there probably shouldn't exist, most of those jobs. And it's not just in government. I mean, look, Joe Rogan caused a big, outcry on some things. And who rebelled at Spotify? The middle management rebelled. Chappelle does a comedy special where he's dunking on the bearded ladies. And who rebelled? The middle management. They're out in the parking lot at Netflix protesting. I mean, quite frankly, they should be, half of Netflix's lineup should be gone. I mean, we need more Chappelle and less, trans this and and all the rest of it, right? Where they're checking boxes of the DEI sushi menu. But let me just say, part of what I think the problem is, so look, this is an entertainment medium, whether you're doing comedy or drama. And sometimes I do believe this, that we think that there's some secret room somewhere with all the secrets in it, and Mulder and Scully are in there, and there's some filing cabinet underneath Ed Martin's desk, and the trap door under his desk, and in there we're gonna find the zip drives and the Epstein and this and that, and and the magic bullet and all the rest of it. And the reality is, these are still the same people that couldn't run the Obamacare website when they launched it.
Right.
So we are stuck between this leviathan of dummies and probably, and I know you talk about this and General Flynn talks about it and many others, probably at least a handful of masterminds that want control. They want control over shows like this. They want control over what jokes are allowed to be told. They want control over who gets confirmed here or there, who gets on this court or that court, whether, charges get dismissed on Letitia James or Jack Smith or whoever the hell it is, right? And that's what we're up against. So sometimes it is daunting because you're like, man, this is a confederacy of dunces. How the hell did they pull this off, right? And some of that is throwing idiot chum in the water. So we chase it like a dog chasing a car. We'll chase this car, chase that car, right? Yeah. And some of our friends they go down rabbit holes because from time to time when our people, whether it's Jones or Flynn or you or Emerald or whoever the hell it is, you guys go down a rabbit hole, Tucker. Sometimes you do find something, right? So now, because from time to time, it's like baseball. Like the only person that ever batted 400 was Ted Williams. That meant he got a hit 4 out of every 10 times. This is the greatest average in baseball ever. 400. It's not even 500. 400. So if you bat 400, you're great. So that part of the problem is sometimes our friends jump down holes and there ain't nothing there. And sometimes they can't come back from it. Sometimes they can. Sometimes they reset the board and they move on. So I think guys that were media people like Dan, and I know Dan, I knew Dan when no one knew it, like his first book when he was just he was waiting in the lobby at the Heritage Foundation, waiting to go up talk to Ingram on the radio. I think sometimes we think that we're going to find, the smoking gun and there's nothing there but red tape, or you get in there and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a maze.
Yeah.
Right. And I could spend 1,000 years down here and find nothing.
So, sadly, AJ, what you're telling me is it's bleak. I mean, I don't want to say there's no hope, but to me, from where I'm sitting with Trump's Article 2 powers and the executive branch powers where the agencies fall under the executive branch, I don't know why he just doesn't literally fire everybody, just get rid of them, like scrub it all. When the government shut down, I'm going to ask you, did you miss anything? Did you even feel it, or was it just, I'm sure you felt it because traffic was down in DC, but did it really impact your life?
I mean, look, you have no, and whether I'm here or in, Sheboygan, it wouldn't have impacted me.
Right.
What I find, so I got here in 2004. I spent 6 months on the Hill before I was going out of my mind because I was watching people show up at 10 a.m. and then go take a dump and then go check their email. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm from Philly. Go check their email and wander down to the Starbucks downstairs, and we're all paying for this.
That's right.
I'm like, it was like I rolled around in insulation in the attic.
It's welfare. It's welfare at six figures. That's what it is.
So I would rather go get coffee for Ingram and walk her dog as a 24-year-old than do that. Right. And I did. Right. So I got to get the hell out of here. Right.
Yeah.
So, but this whole place operates off of the government. And it's why you got 10 of the richest counties in the United States around DC.
Mm-hmm.
Even the predominantly African-American county in Maryland, PG County, Prince George's County, which is where CPAC takes place every year. It's that county, okay, where the Gaylord is.
Yep.
And it's big. They have the most African-American millionaires in the country in what is basically what should be a backwater of Baltimore spilling down towards DC. So there's a lot of people making money here off of all of this. It's media, it's lobbyists for sure. And look, I throw my fishing rod in all kinds of pools to see what's going on. But no, it didn't really change much. The fact that everything shut down. The janitor at the Smithsonian that makes $125,000 a year didn't have to go to work. Imagine that. That's a good gig if you can get it.
That's right.
Janitor job at the Smithsonian. So that's what we're dealing with here, and that's why, like, even when Elon lifted up a few skirts there and showed all the money we were lighting on fire for, Tranny the musical in Ireland and sex changes for puppies in Brazil and all the rest of it. And we were all outraged. And we were told we were going into Fort Knox. That didn't happen.
Nope. Did the Federal Reserve get the audit?
They were there with the gold paint. They bought a bunch of stuff from Hobby Lobby. They were painting these gold bricks from Hobby Lobby and doing all the rest of it. So, but I will tell you this, and this was one sort of talking point, probably on this show, but not in mainstream media. Shame on the Republicans if all this was going on. This is your proof. This is proof of concept of what I'm telling you. Because I've been here 20 years now, but I've been following politics since high school. And I can tell you, shame on the Republican Party, because all this USAID nonsense and all the GAO and the government, the Government General Services Administration and all these freaking departments getting paid $100,000 a year, all these people.
Yep.
The Republicans, with very few exceptions of, Ron Paul and his son, maybe Justin Amash, Massey, Tom Coburn used to go out and read a bunch of,
MTG.
garbage, but that's it. Yeah, MTG. Yeah. Very few. So that's everyone, right. Lindsay hanging out with the bros, alone with the toga parties. Everyone was okay with this system. And all Elon did was peel back like one postage stamp of nonsense.
Right.
Compared to everything that's here. So they should be ashamed of themselves because they're all just getaway drivers for robbing us, paying for these freaking Star Trek conventions and masturbation conventions and everything else that the government does, right? Because they do this.
Yeah.
Junkets here and and no one said boo. Everyone was all right with it.
Well, I don't think America's all right with it anymore. I mean, we're getting a lot of comments in the chat. People recognize we have a uniparty. They see that Trump's got the best of intentions. He's got terrible people around him. Comments coming in from Facebook and YouTube and X around. I think that people get it now. And there's this school of thought, AJ, and this goes into the the part of the Q world. I know you don't have anything to do with it. I just sort of watch it from afar. But this is the stuff they say, well, it had to happen. I mean, I don't know that you need Q to tell you that. Sometimes you just got to let the kid burn his hand on the hot stove so he won't do it a second time. Right. You can tell him till you're blue in the face, but Johnny's going to do it. And Johnny's going to do what Johnny's going to do. And so I think the people have been sitting back and now they've just, because of social media and because of shows all over the place and just because the government isn't hiding their intentions anymore, These agencies are totally corrupt. They're captured. They're owned by the industries they're supposed to be regulating. And the Supreme Court could give a crap that they overturned Chevron doctrine. They're not hammering anybody on the fact that the agencies are still judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
We've got federal judges that don't listen to Trump. Thank God Trump's not listening to them. Can you imagine if he turned the plane around because Boasberg told him to and he brought the criminals back? Are you kidding?
Right. And,
So,
and
I mean-
you know, the metaphor I always use, a football metaphor, that most of politics, and this is an explanation for the uniparty, the establishment, the deep state, and all the rest of it. Most of politics takes place between the 40-yard lines where no one really scores. It just moves back and forth over the 50-yard line. And from time to time, Reagan, Obama, Trump, other people, John F. Kennedy, Teddy Roosevelt, Lincoln, others, they score. Sometimes they score twice. And that's when, you know, you get a slight, and everybody talks about the Great Reset. I mean, Trump has reset the board to some degree. But, you know, is Bondi better than Sessions and Barr? Yes, I guess you're moving in the right direction, but she may be gone soon. I mean, we don't know. You know, I mean, all I'm saying is you can't get these people confirmed. So you would think Bondi, being the Florida AG and all the rest of it, would have a better grip on this. But I don't think most of these people are prepared for the Leviathan when it comes up out of the Potomac. You know, I got this job. Look at me. I got confirmed. Republicans control the Senate. You know, most of them, it doesn't matter how many warriors we send in there. I mean, you know, people have opinions about what Kash Patel's doing. I mean, here's someone that spent 5 years saying all kinds of things, you know.
Wrote a book, Government Gangsters, which basically was the that was the playbook for any prosecutor that wanted to go in and take down the government gangsters. He laid it up for you, and instead he's going on podcasts talking about his girlfriend. I mean, it's like, wait a minute, Tina Peters is still in prison, Kash.
That's right. Most of these people were picked to lead agencies that effed with them as private citizens, whether it's RFK Jr., Tulsi being followed on planes, whatever the hell it is, right? But when you get in there and you're looking at this Leviathan, this arena full of, you know, people that don't have loyalty to anything except power, absolute power. And, you know, they'll throw, if we don't let the Republicans win every once in a while, all hell will break loose, you know, Glenn Youngkin, right? And you'll have this situation where it's choreographed, right? And look, I'm a comedy historian, but your friends and you know all about controlled opposition.
Mm-hmm.
You have guests on here that talk about it. They're smarter than me. But it's real. It's real. And, you know, the left has it too. I mean, look, talk about comedy. Everyone except Gutfeld is controlled opposition. And, you know, Fox is a publicly traded company. They'll allow Gutfeld to go up to a line to a certain point.
I don't think Tyrus is controlled opposition.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah,
he don't care. He don't. I mean, he and I we have the same publisher. Believe me. He'll go wrestle in the parking lot for $5 if they want to fire him. But the point is, you know, that's the situation. He's like, you know, okay, you got Kimmel and Colbert and all these people, but they're all sort of doughy Gen X white guys that are all sort of telling the same jokes every night.
Yeah.
So imagine if those same people that picked these three, the Kimmel, the Fallon, the Colbert, to be the representatives of American humor. American humor that gave us Pryor and Carlin and Lenny Bruce and Roseanne and all the rest of it. Those same people want to pick your government now, which is funny, which is gallows humor. It's gallows humor.
The tail's wagging the dog, and it has been for a long time. It's disgusting. Listen, I'm sitting here. I've got all these chapters dog-eared. By the way, I wanted to talk to you, but I know we're running out of time.
Welcome back.
Yeah, you got to come back because, I mean, I'd love to talk about the Black Lives Matter loves Hamas chapter, because talk about a conversation that has totally derailed MAGA and split the America First and I mean, it basically created two camps inside MAGA. MAGA became MAGA. And then there was the America First people who were also MAGA, but they are like, we're America First and everything else is BS.
Sure.
And, you know, and again, this is Marxism at its finest. This is the red green axis and the social media influencers and the bot accounts out there that are pushing narratives constantly. And they'll literally put fake crap up on video, like what we saw going on in Ukraine a lot. So I guess in closing, I want to ask you this, AJ, if Americans understood one truth about cultural Marxism, what should it be?
Well, that it's not new. And that you could call it wokeism all you want, but they've been doing the long march through our institutions, going back to Margaret Sanger and Woodrow Wilson, really. And they've never been able to get an economic revolution because we have three things: Western civilization, the middle class, and the nuclear family, which is why all three of those things are under assault, because they can't hang the capitalists with the rope they manufactured. So instead, they get in like an STD or a tapeworm and they try to infect the culture. And that's how they come for us and try to capture us.
Well, AJ Rice, I've worked with you. You're an incredible publicist. You hustle. You've got a great team, by the way. Love your team
Appreciate
over
that.
at Publicist. They're phenomenal. Bar none, the best out there. Just tremendous. You're a funny guy. You're a dad. And, you're a great husband and you're a great friend. And when things happen, you check in on people. You're not just a guy hustling for a dollar. You're a guy that genuinely cares about this country. And you have the who's who in DC, obviously, as your clients. But when you put out content like this, white privilege, I encourage people to read it, because if you can't grasp what cultural Marxism is and what it's doing to our country, here's a book that'll explain it to you with humor so you can laugh out loud. But the way you write, AJ, paints a picture in people's brain. And sometimes I'm a visual learner. Sometimes I have to see it to comprehend it. And so I highly recommend White Privilege. AJ Rice, you're just extraordinary. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, satire is supposed to punch upward. Comedy is a civic duty, right? And we all have to play our part. So I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, girl.
Merry Christmas to you, AJ. Thanks so much for popping in here today, and we'll catch you perhaps maybe right after the holidays.
All right.
Cheers. All right. Well, guys, it doesn't get much better than that. AJ Rice. We exposed a couple of truths today. A government willing to imprison fathers, to steal children, erase due process, and a culture engineered to divide Americans. I think AJ kind of really sums it up there when he talks about the weaponization of race and how, they want to destroy the American family. This book right here, White Privilege, is a shocking title, the White Privilege album. But frankly, he breaks down all the cultural appropriations and Marxism that are deployed against us through fifth generation warfare. But there's one thing that really can't be erased: faith. I think faith is something that endures. Faith builds. Families can endure if they've got good faith. Truth, if you are willing to step up and speak the truth, and if you're willing to mock them. I think mockery is one of the things that shatters lives better than anything out there. So to the guests today, Tom Hammer and AJ Rice, thank you always for standing firm. To our audience, I always tell you guys, don't comply, don't be silent, don't look away, because if you do, you're giving into the beast system and you're going to allow them to rule you forever. And we, the people of the government, it's up to us to take back our government. It's up to us to call out the criminals that are literally stealing our authority, and we're allowing them to take it. Ask questions, because truth dies in the dark. Shine a spotlight, a big, bright 1 million candle watt spotlight on these demons. I'm Ann Vandersteel. This is Steel News. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'll be meeting today with some of the MMTLP victims, and there are tens of thousands of them. Upwards of 100,000 people have been impacted by a terrible story in which our agencies, the Securities and Exchange Commission, FINRA, and of course, broker-dealers were involved in fleecing some people who invested in a stock with all the best intentions. Life savings were destroyed, businesses were destroyed, marriages were destroyed, lives were lost, and many were veterans. So this is something that I'm going to continue to dive into. The story's been around for a while. It came to my attention recently, and I'm taking a very long look and deep look into this. And tomorrow, you're going to start to hear some pretty explosive content coming out. I'm going to put it out in short form, like 90-second reels, to try and pump it out there. Going to need your help sharing it, because we're going to get the attention of President Trump. We already have the attention of people inside his administration. They're paying attention to this story. We're going to get accountability for these people. And I really hope we can hopefully restore some of the wealth that was stolen from them, because it's just horrific when you have agencies that conspire against the people and they're the ones getting rich. Those same agencies designed to protect we the people from big bad corporations. Agencies are now working against not only the people, but some of these corporations. Tucker Carlson did an expose on a company out of Utah the other day, a couple of months ago. I watched it last night, and it's the same pattern over and over. It's this playbook that's just tried, true, tested, and it's disgusting. And we're going to expose it, and we're going to take it down. And this time, the people are coming for those people that are in charge of these agencies, and we're going after them to go to prison for life. And anybody that covers it up, that's misprision of treason, which makes you a traitor to this country, which is treason in of itself. And there are very serious punishments for people who engage in treason. So I hope you guys had a great afternoon. We'll catch you next time when I come back around on Steel News. And I hope you all have a great night.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you.